So thank you everybody so much for joining us on Flex World today. This talk is called Workspace and Workspace Reformed, Challenges and Opportunities. We are so thrilled today to have Suzan Dixon with us of Standard Chartered Bank. Suzan is the head of Workspace for Europe and Americas. Suzan's a CRE professional that has been in the industry for over 10 years, mainly in the financial and tech sector. She started working at Standard Chartered Bank as head of Workplace, Europe and Americas in March 2019. Suzan has an MCR and an MSc in Facilities Management and is now pursuing an MBA through Cranfield University. She is very passionate about change and innovation and sees a very bright future in how we can create a workspace where people want to actually come back to. That is very refreshing to hear, Suzan, that people are actively working to build those workspaces. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, so it's really great to be here. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. It was really great for that introduction. So thank you for the very, the very polite introduction. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Very thorough. So we're really thrilled to have you at Flex World and appreciate you taking the time to speak with our guests today. So with that, I think we can just kind of get started and jump right into the questions. Based on your experience at Standard Chartered Bank, given the past 2 years, how is the current workspace and workforce being reshaped through COVID, through these changing times?
Yeah, I mean, we have really exciting times going on, right? And it's just a start. COVID has truly, what it has done is truly unshackled the whole work from the place. In the past, work and place was one, and it was really around management having an eye on the employees and, how the space was set up. So it's obviously changed. So there is a massive silver lining of what we do within corporate real estate. We are at the seat to really make that change for businesses. Now, within Standard Chartered Bank, we've had a really exciting journey thus far. We've been really fortunate with our leadership. So we've had 100% commitment from the get-go, right from the group CEO to pretty much everybody. Everybody's joined the journey with us. To give you an example, I mean, it's quite an exciting time when it comes to breaking hierarchies. We have basically had a massive drive in terms of right from the top where we've depersonalized offices, and what that means is all the offices that were with all the senior management now they become they basically are rooms, meeting rooms.
Wow,
that is a massive.
How did they feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it came with some interesting challenges at the start, but I think the positive is we've had the example step from right from the top, from the leadership. So it's been really a positive change. We are still going through that process now, but just to kind of give you an example, this is coming right from the top, so we know we're mandated to go ahead, full steam ahead is the way we look at it. So we have really gone hybrid. And when I say we've gone hybrid, we've had 3 kind of locations. We're looking at home location, we're looking at near home, and we are looking at offices. And that is what we are calling your place, your workplace. So it's no longer just the office. I mean, fortunately, it's real, right? With COVID, we know that people can work from anywhere. Again, cultures, we are a global organization, so cultures are very different. But fortunately, with all this change, everybody's joining us through the journey. So that's been really great. In terms of the way we've gone about, setting ourselves up, we initially, when we had this whole thing come onto us, and we really needed to, no time to think, just get on with it, right? What we did was obviously partner very closely with our human resources team, and we looked at the job family framework for employees to really analyze and assess whether who can work from home, who is mandatory need to be in the office, for example. But we really assessed that and understood what are the opportunities there. And from there, what we did was give our employees a choice. And with that came, so we phased it out into different markets. So like big markets are going in the first phase, and then we so on and so on. But we phased it out, and when we say given them a choice, we really reviewed our contracts, our staff contracts, and given them a choice of whether they want to work from home or work from the office or near home, but given them that option. What we also seen was we carry out yearly annual leasing surveys to benchmark our space and really kind of enhance the experience that we set up. And what was interesting was 75% of our employees, they want flexibility of where they work. Now this is a massive change. Before we didn't have that. We had flexible working, but it was quite subtle. So this is kind of a big change. What we also got to know was 70% of our staff within that phase one market, they really want to work from home 2 to 3 days a week. So we know that, it is really changing, but it's really come to a choice. So I would really say that I feel privileged to be working for Standard Chartered Bank because we are definitely leading the way. We have got to fail fast if there is a failing because everything is experimental right now.
Of course,
right?
yeah, experimental for everybody. No, you're completely right. Well, that's great that you're giving your employees the flexibility, some flexibility to choose when they come in and where they come in and how they work. I think we're going to start seeing that, around a lot more hybrid companies over the next couple of years. I think that's the only path forward. So it's great that you guys are really embracing that and giving them that flexibility.
Yeah, Mike, I think to add to it, it's given us a massive opportunity. So what we're really looking to do is, our ambition is twice the experience, half the space. So we are really looking to drive that. And when we say twice the experience, it really means twice the experience. It's like giving employees that seamless experience, curated experience. So when they come back to the office, it's not going to be like, oh, where do I go? Or do I connect to the technology in a meeting room? Really looking at that in fine-tuning it. But what we've done is look at our standards, our workplace standards, and reviewed that. Further, we went one step ahead and looked at how we operationalize it. So all this work has been happening in the background over the last 1 year to really set ourselves up. And now we are really working on how to manage that excess space because we know that given that we're having hybrid now and people having their options, we have excess space. So we are looking at how we manage that. Obviously, in terms of that choice, we supported staff with, they got a stipend to set up their home office. So we've taken care of every element through that, options that are there. What we've seen, obviously, with COVID, there was no options. People stayed at home and they had to work from home. We still carried on. So staff are very highly productive. We have really highly productive outcomes. So we are definitely going to stay on the trend, but it's, like I said, it's just a start.
It's very interesting you say that. You mentioned you had excess space. And, I wonder if that's something that a lot of organizations will run into is that, if they're implementing hybrid correctly, they should have excess space because there's not as much dedicated people in a space there once was. So I think that's something that we'll see more of. And, potentially those companies using alternative workplaces, whether it's a co-working space or another office or something, I think that you're just going to see so much more of that over the next couple of years. Great. So that was a great answer to that first question about how the workspace was reshaped. So I know you kind of touched into this, but can you tell us more about that process of transitioning into hybrid work? I know you just explained about some of the employees, but how did your team and how did you make that decision that we really had to transition into hybrid work? And tell me more about that process and that rollout to your staff and employees.
Sure. I mean, the way I look at it, Standard Chartered Bank is a very progressive bank, and that's where we say we give employees a choice, right? But it is key that, this is not just corporate real estate, it's a combined effort. So it really takes a village to get this going. And what I mean by that, we got the mandate from our executive leadership. We have worked very closely with our finance team to look at how we reinvest in the space and what does that mean in terms of impairing excess space and what do we do with this excess space. We work really very closely with HR, and that's really around, have hybrid contracts. Again, how do we ensure that people have inclusivity in their working environment, whether it's from home or, from the office or near home. but really having that inclusivity. With tech, again, technology partners, we work very closely to really look at how we upgrade our technology. And this is all work in progress. We just started that journey. But this is all key things that need to happen. So it's not something that, we're doing it in silos. And this is really, like I said, we've come to the table, everybody's come together to really have that unified approach because it affects all of us. So even like communication team is very key that they are putting the right messages out and on a timely basis. Teams like legal, again, what's the statutory and legal framework? I mean, for example, in US, it's really different from what we are experiencing in Europe, UK, or the rest of the world. So I think having them to the table, the risk team, for example, to look at risk assessments, obviously change management throughout the journey. Change management is key because change management often is an afterthought. But without them, engaging with employees, really understanding, what's working, what's not, there is more risk of failure then. So we went through that whole process to get that going. So we have that solid team to connect, and it was quite interesting because we did all of that virtually, globally. We've had teams connect and really, we called it a hackathon, but
I mean, it was. You were coming together virtually to make it hack together the new way of working for Standard Chartered Bank.
Yeah.
And, I have to imagine just the complexity of doing it between Europe and the US. It had to be very difficult, with different COVID rates, different, rules about coming back to the office and stuff. Trying to figure that out has had to have been difficult.
Yeah, and don't forget, with virtual comes its own challenges, right? And what I mean by that, now we use things like Trello or mural boards, to connect with. So all of this is new. This is all stuff that we've kind of, maneuvered and railed through during the pandemic. It gave us the opportunity to try many new things, but obviously it also brings more challenges in terms of expectations. We set expectations now. And when I say we phased it out, so we really went through the process of looking at our big markets. That went into phase one. So there were 9 phase one markets. Then we looked at phase 2, which is 16, and right now we're going through that. So when I say phasing, we are engaging with the employees and getting their choice what their preferences are. So that is where we are at right now. And then we'll have phase 3, which is all the other markets which have. And I think those are the ones that have more regulatory challenges. The smaller ones have more regulatory challenges, like Frankfurt, for example, Workers' Council, all those kind of things. So that is the bit that we are going to work through next year. I think the key thing has been really giving people choice. Choice is going to be so important, and I think that's going to be really the lead, the leader. If you're in a business. But by giving people a choice, you're going to attract more talented employees because it's now employees are kings. And what I mean by that, it's no longer the day where employers tell employees, this is what you do. It's all shifted. Employees got that choice. They know the experience of having that work-life balance. It's all changing. So giving them a choice, and communication, again, really timely communication, because everybody wants stuff now. There is an expectation. I mean, look at Amazon as an example, right? You have the experience,
We're all obsessed with Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
2-day delivery, you can't beat that.
And we're competing against that. So there is no time to say, oh, we'll wait and sense and see what happens. We took that initiative of just rolling with it and getting on with it. Another thing that has been pretty key is investment. I mean, there is a thought where, oh, we'll wait and see what happens. But you cannot really create that experience without the investment, whether it's just upgrading technology in a place to really give that experience. We are competing with 85,000 offices, to be honest. What I mean by that is you have your home office setup, which works really well. Why would they want to come back to the office? So that's where, it's really exciting. And at the same time, it really keeps us on our feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge. And I really like your comment about, the employees are king now in deciding where they want to work. And you hear stories of all these companies hiring and people not wanting to work there if they don't offer fully hybrid workspace. And I think that is going to become the new requirement for a lot of big companies, is they have to offer some sort of hybrid work and allow those employees to work, whether it's at home or that space near them. I think that's a really, really apt comment, and it's really changed. I don't think it used to be like this. Where you worked and how you worked was dictated by the employer, and employees are having more of a say in that. So that's definitely exciting, and it's in a changing time. So again, you just touched on some of these, but I want to reiterate this question. You guys seem like you have it figured out pretty well and are managing it well so far, and your plans roll into the next year or so. What are some of the challenges that you see companies running into? Whether it's Standard Chartered Bank or another company, what are some of the big challenges you see these guys running into as they're trying to build a hybrid workforce and change their models?
Sure, Mike. Thank you for the question. And to be honest, we are all learning through it, right? It is still experimentation. So we do some things well, but at the same time, we also have the amazing opportunity to fail fast. So try something out and then see how it goes, right? And I think the key points when you look at really looking at the key challenges that we've experienced and suggestions that I could make really is firstly get a good understanding of what the business needs are. Because more often than not, people think, okay, we are the experts. We are the experts with corporate real estate. But the reality is the business needs might be really different from what we are trying to deliver. So really, I think the first point is understand the business needs. And generally, my experience, business needs, they come in and they need stuff as of yesterday. So you literally have, a time where you're like, get on the go. I think we just touched on this, but reinvest. There are questions as to why did we invest again? Maybe we just upgraded the space. The whole dynamics within the workplace is changing. It's no longer a place where you come and just do focus work. Our belief is that focus work will happen at home. When staff come to the office, they'll be coming for collaboration. And to make that happen, you have to kind of shift the way we've, the old workplace standards used to work.
Yeah, so I think the physical workspace as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, pilot test stuff. It's not about, a lot of investment, get it all right. Pilot testings, try, and that's that fail fast kind of thing I was trying to tell you about. I think another big thing, when I say employee is king, right? They have a high expectation in terms of what their needs are. They obviously want that seamless experience. They want stuff now. It's not like, oh yeah, I don't mind waiting. It just doesn't exist. Again, engage with employees, because it is really, an understanding of what's really working. I mean, something as oh yeah, we've got coffee, no big deal. There might be, it's just a coffee, right? But there is such a big driver for these things. And you think, really, how's that? But by talking to employees, you realize that is quite key in terms of their preferences. One of the key challenges, and we've not solved for this yet, it's been by giving a choice, we had to still manage load. And what I mean by, if suppose, like I signed up for one day to work from the office, but what day will that be? Because it's a choice, people are using that as an option, what day to choose, for example. And then we have the risk of Monday to Friday, we'll have a dead space. So we are really looking at how do we engage with the business to really drive that coming into the office, but really balancing the load throughout the week. And this is, again, a global challenge that we have. So we are looking at how we solve for that. Other things that are quite interesting, and this is still the time where you're testing the waters. I mean, there's a generation gap, right? So that is, again, quite interesting to see how the dynamics are working within the workplace. So there is what we call the selfish workers. Now, these are workers who are in their late 50s, well settled, got an established role within the organization. They don't want to come to the office. They would like to work from home. And they got the best setup, why not? But then we see the new generation workplace they are losing out on that mentoring, that real
social
connection.
aspect, the mentorship, the
Yeah,
meeting people, the hall talk, the water cooler talk that we all used to get a couple years ago.
correct.
Yeah.
The cohesion. And so that's why we see how do we ensure. So there is a big element where I call these selfish folk, it's really people leaders. We just need to ensure that that's that partnership with HR, that it is well understood the need for that inclusivity, the need for that that bit of mentorship or being there for the young generation, so that they have the same experience that the older generation had in the past. So those are some things that we are looking at. What is also interesting is what we've understood, at least again on the generation gaps. 75% of our workforce will be under 40 by 2025. Now, what has been interesting, so we've used, flexible workplaces in the past, and flex and co-workspaces are a trend. I mean, this generation finds it stylish. There is these impromptu discussions. It's very relaxed. I mean, there are beer on tap, all those kind of things. So we have to ensure that we are building spaces for the future generation. So it is really how do you maneuver, how do you creative and innovate so that it meets all generations, but you are future proofing the office. So I think those are things that will really come at play. Another thing, like I said, change management, communication, all these things, they can really slip you up if you don't get it right. So those are some of the key challenges I would say to keep an eye on, and possibly common mistakes if you kind of let's say, okay, there's investment in change management. Yes, it is, but there is value to it. So
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah, those are things I can consider.
yeah, I mean, that brings me into the next question, the common mistakes. Obviously, you brought up the generational. That's something I hadn't really thought of before, but you're right. When you're delivering that message or whatever technology or method you use, everyone has to be able to use it, regardless of their age. They need to be able to use it to access the office or work in the way that they want to. How do you think that these common mistakes can be addressed? I know you mentioned the change management a lot and the communication. Besides communication, what do you think the best way to address some of these challenges or common mistakes that companies are running into?
So in terms of, like I touched on, to be honest, Mike, in terms of addressing these mistakes, you really have to understand the business needs. You have to be connected on what the future planning is, what is the requirement. Because based on that, you can create that workspace. And then I say, in terms of enhancing that experience, it's really understanding how you can support it. And when I say support it, technology is going to play a massive role within this. I mean, and I'm not talking about just technology from, just having connections on Wi-Fi and video conferencing. And what I'm talking about is even property technology, like how you book the space, how you book your meeting rooms, or what is the visitor experience. So what is the F&B experience? How easy you make it for employees, because these are the things that employees want, and then they'll say, okay, I mean, it's more easier in the office, might as well go there, yeah, right? So even F&B offering, or fitness solutions, all these wellness offerings, it just kind of is all the add-ons which will really create that need for an employee saying, I'm going to the office, I can collaborate, I can have a great cup of coffee, have an amazing meal, have an amazing meal, and still stay fit because I'll do my yoga on that day. So those are all the kind of things that you have to kind of think of and create.
Yep. No, it's funny you mentioned coffee again. I used to run a co-working space back in my previous role. And the three most important things were coffee, Wi-Fi, and then power, obviously. But coffee came before Wi-Fi many times. Like, coffee is the most important thing in a workspace, just for keeping people happy and working. You wouldn't always think of it, but it's so important. And it's funny you brought it up multiple times because, yeah, that's part of that workplace experience that people need and they want. And they'll feel like it's missed if it's not there. So yeah, I think that's been some really good challenges and common mistakes. And yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned, the technology piece for addressing it. Because absolutely, that's with our product office R&D hybrid, that's exactly what we're trying to build. Some of that cohesive pieces from the meeting room booking to the desk booking to the health and safety, which is part of it, as well as the F&B. I mean, all of that makes a cohesive office experiences. And yeah, I think as more and more people return to the office, they'll expect and demand some sort of platform or easy way to do that all that doesn't disrupt their work too much. So that's really interesting you brought that up. Great. And so, yeah, one more final question, and this one's more future looking and forward thinking. After everything you've told us today, what are some of the future trends and the future of hybrid organizations in general, do you think? How is this going to shift over the next decade, let's say?
That's an interesting question, right? I mean, it is just a start. Like I said, we are just literally only scratching the surface. And corporate real estate, again, very exciting place to be. But it is really important that we embrace yet more change. I mean, as soon as the pandemic struck, we were all into how do we ensure, we are setting up the space where health and safety was key. Again, then it got into return to the office, so it's all these kind of things, but yet more change because now we are thinking of how do we future-proof the office. So yeah, I think key will be to establish a strategy that delivers an innovative and engaging, like flexible workplace experience for all our stakeholders. And that is pretty much really, really critical to get it right. In terms of experience, is really around curated experience, seamless experience. There is an expectation from staff of what they want, and I think really ensuring we really keep an eye on what's happening in the industry so we can accordingly set ourselves up for success. Choice will be a big one, and we are already seeing that globally, and how different business organizations are using choice, whether it is choice or whether it's mandatory. It's quite interesting, but it'll be a key driver on that retention, attracting new staff. I mean, I read an article recently that they told me flexibility is now come second to compensation. And that is a massive shift, right? People want that flexibility, and by giving them a choice, we've managed to do that now. Again, it'll be pretty key to invest. So there is a need to get this right. You need to invest. So I think that is going to be quite a big trend. People are going to look at how do you invest to get it right. We spoke about technology. Technology is going to play a massive part. When we say innovation, without technology, it's not going to happen. Whether it's smart building, what we're doing with sustainability, this is all stuff that people care about. It's come to the forefront. So all these kind of things, you really have to think of how you're doing the right thing. And obviously, as part of it, technology will help us to really make this. I really strongly believe office is very much here to stay, but in a different form, right? So yeah, it's not going away. And it's always going to be like a place where our work is done. And what I mean by that, it'll play a big part in how we collaborate, or a critical meeting point location, how it shapes the culture, because that is going to be pretty key. It's not just going to be working from home, because you can get lost working from home. We've had all the studies on mental well-being and stuff like that. So this office is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It'll be in a different form, and the size might change. I think leadership and people leader really will be the driving force to ensure it works and really ensure there's inclusivity. You're really kind of keeping that culture alive, and really driving that discussion as to what the future holds. So, like I said, it's just a start, a very exciting start, and a long journey.
Well, you're obviously very passionate about it. I'm sure that your employees and all the employees at Standard Chartered can kind of feel that as they're coming back in. You guys have definitely thought a lot about it, from your team to the change management team to all the teams that are working together to bring all of those employees back into the office over the next years and over the next decade, as you just mentioned. It will be shifting, and I love the fact you brought up that choice is going to be so paramount. just coming back to the employees, choice is king, and their choices will dictate a lot of, how the office shapes out over the next couple of years, obviously with your guiding hand as well. So great. Well, man, that was very, very informative. And Suzan, I am so appreciative of you joining us today. Thank you very much for giving your look kind of at where the hybrid workforce is going. You have a great view of it. And again, we appreciate you sharing it with us today. So thank you so much for joining us today at Flex World. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great privilege.
Absolutely. Suzan, have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.